As always, we like to start with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Indigenous peoples have had and continue to have presence and deep connection with the lands on and near the Oak Ridges Moraine, a part of what is known to the Indigenous peoples of North America as Turtle Island. These lands are the meeting place of two treaties, the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations of the Williams Treaties. We would like to thank them and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us. Indigenous peoples have been subjected to colonial oppression and injustice, which continues to this day. The Oak Ridges Moraine Land Trust acknowledges that the first step to reconciliation is recognizing Indigenous peoples and their inherent rights to the land, which will ensure that we are creating a better future by strengthening our relationship with them and the land. Our land trust endeavors to honor the land and its treaties by ensuring healthy ecosystems that thrive forever. We recognize that working together with Indigenous peoples to include ecological traditional knowledge systems moves us towards an equitable and sustainable future. So what is a land trust? We're a nonprofit organization that can acquire interests in land, like conservation easements, for the purpose of conservation. We raise funds to either purchase land or arrange conservation easements with landowners to protect ecological features. We also receive donations of land and easements, which require us to protect these lands forever. We take direct action to protect ecologically valuable land on and near the moraine for today and future generations. Landowners who do choose to pursue conservation easements with us will get significant tax benefits in addition to having their land protected from any kind of encroachment or development forever, which is a pretty sweet deal. So the Oak Ridges Moraine Land Trust as an organization, currently we protect 5,073 acres of land, which are spread over 66 properties across the moraine. The work we do supports climate change resiliency by protecting ecosystem services like flood control by maintaining wetlands. Protected lands support species at risk habitat. The work we do ensures that biodiversity and environmental heritage are conserved forever. So why do we do it? We envision that natural environments are important to sustaining life, and we want to make sure that they are protected forever. We believe that we need healthy ecosystems to survive. Endangered, at-risk, other native species deserve protected habitat, and future generations should have the same opportunities to experience nature and all the species we see today. So join our growing community of landowners and supporters who are leaving a legacy for the future. So you can see here on this map, the Oak Ridges Moraine is just that light green sort of strip across the greenbelt. You can see it's almost entirely within the greenbelt, and all those yellow little dots are our conservation easement properties, and the red dots are our nature reserve properties. And in the near future, we are hoping to add many more of those little dots. So we've recently joined an exciting new initiative, the Kirtland's Warbler Restoration Initiative. The Kirtland's warbler is endangered due to breeding habitat loss, which are pine oak savannas. They're also home to other species at risk. This habitat loss occurred primarily due to colonial settlement and development. The good news is that in June 2022, 5 male Kirtland's warblers were discovered just north of the moraine in Simcoe, proving that if you build and restore their habitats, they will return home. The project goal is to protect a total of 400 acres of land to restore pine oak savannas on the Oak Ridges Moraine over the next 5 to 10 years. And we would like to establish at least 125 native species to support habitat and stabilize the Kirtland's warbler populations in not just Canada, but all of North America. If you're interested in supporting or volunteering, you can contact Aileen or sign up on our website. So here are just a few of our upcoming events. We have snowshoeing for seniors in Schaumburg. We also have some more webinars lined up. We're really excited to be welcoming back Kim Cabrera, who's a wildlife tracking expert. If you're interested, you can check out our website, oakridgesmoraine.org, where you can become a member, donate, volunteer, and join all of these wonderful events we have planned. So without further ado, I will introduce our keynote speaker today, who we are all here for. Having wandered in the woods, waterways, and tundra all her life, Beth has learned that sometimes you can go further by lingering quietly in one place and listening, smelling, touching, tasting, and watching the wonder unfold. As an ANFT nature and forest therapy guide and trail certification consultant trained in 2018, she delights in guiding others to an awareness, understanding, and deeper appreciation of the healing power of nature as a tool for peace and prosperity, while honoring the connection between humans and the earth. As a trail consultant, she has designed self-guided trails at Scandinave Spa, Blue Mountains, and YMCA Geneva Park Conference Center, Aurelia. Pivoting to remote guiding, Beth meets with clients from all around the world, including students of nature, place and restoration, and the Recreation and Leisure Studies Department at Brock University, staff and volunteers at Simcoe Muskoka Palliative Health Network, students and staff at the Simcoe County Board of Education, and stakeholders at the Oak Ridges Marine Land Trust. Most recently, Beth has become very involved in protecting the Catchacoma Old Growth Forest north of Peterborough, and in delivering forest bathing staff retreats to various mental health and wellness organizations. Beth lives in Barrie, Ontario, Canada, and can be found in the woods on Instagram, Facebook, or at forestbathingwithbeth.com. So without further ado, I will stop sharing my screen and let Beth deliver her webinar.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and good evening. I'm trusting everyone can see the slide. Thank you so much for that. Thanks, Serena. And huge thanks to Serena and Eileen and the Oak Ridges Moraine Land Trust, certainly for inviting me here this evening, but also for the hugely important work that this land trust does and preserving very precious lands. We all benefit from them, mind, body, and soul. Our future depends on this. We would probably all agree that spending time in nature it makes us feel better. You wouldn't have tuned in otherwise. This is a time of year when many of us set new intentions. Often these are linked to improving our health, physical, mental, and emotional. At the conclusion of this webinar, I invite you to set an intention for one new way that you can connect with nature this year. I will offer a suggestion, my gift to you, for something that takes 1 second a day and has robust research to back it up, and it guarantees an increased sense of well-being for 8 hours. It is something you can add to your list of intentions. My intention this evening is to help increase the healing power of nature as a powerful and an effective tool, often to not only get us on the path back to health, but as a means for peace and prosperity and deep connection to the planet. I also hope it will help you reframe your relationship with nature and its role in your own well-being, as well as that of your community and of the planet. As Globe and Mail reporter Wency Lung wrote in their recent article, there's nothing like a global pandemic occurring amid a climate crisis to drive home the reality that our individual health depends not just on our own efforts, but on the health of our communities and ecosystem. We are all in this together. I will not be offering the sources of my research, as I recognize that many of you are intrepid Googlers and hope will be inspired to do a deeper dive into the particular areas of the connections between nature exposure and human health that are of particular interest to you. Please know, though, that everything I am mentioning is backed up by robust research. I really haven't made this stuff up. Throughout this presentation, I welcome you to lie down, get in a comfy position to listen, dim the lights, light a candle if you wish, gaze out your window, inspect your houseplants, cuddle your cat or dog, enjoy a cup of tea or a glass of wine. So here we go. As we begin, I invite you to take 3 deep breaths through your nose, sniffing the air wherever you are, and noticing if there are any smells, odors, aromas where you are. Before COVID-19, the World Health Organization identified stress as the biggest epidemic of the 21st century. Stress is the root cause of a multiple of ailments. This is not news to you, as mental health declines globally at an alarming rate, especially for women during COVID-19. And as our world copes with unprecedented amounts of stress, our medical and health systems will be overrun with ways to help people cope, prescribing more drugs than ever before. We are at a precipice where, as humans and healthcare providers, we have to figure this out. We're going to have to source a more accessible, simpler, and biosupportive system that is already all around us. In Nicholas Carr's 2010 book, The Shallows, which is sometimes called a silent spring for the literary mind, the average American spends at least 8 hours a day looking at some sort of electronic screen. They relax by watching TV. Bad idea. Research shows that this only makes us crabbier. Since the age of the internet, North Americans have become more aggressive, more narcissistic, more distracted, more depressed, and less cognitively nimble. Oh yes, and fatter. I am proposing that a part of the solution to these challenges has been right outside our door or our window all along. Biophilia is the natural human instinct to connect to nature and be outdoors. It's in our DNA. It suggests that humans possess an innate tendency to seek connections with nature and other forms of life. It's the reason we are all obsessed over creating a houseplant jungle in our homes, and why we feel instantly more calm and collected when we breathe fresh air. North American settlers have often relegated nature to the romantic realm of Thoreau. Viewing it as medicine is still largely foreign, except for Indigenous people, who have always recognized and honored and accessed this sacred connection. Studying the impact of the natural world on the brain is actually a scandalously new idea, says Richard Louv, author of the 2008 bestseller Last Child in the Woods, the book that minted the term nature deficit disorder. He's also the author of The Nature Principle, his 2010 follow-up about adults, as he says it should have been studied 30 to 50 years ago. In the words of Richard Louv, it's easy to blame nature deficit disorder on the kids or the parents' back, but they also need the help of urban planners, schools, libraries, and other community agents to find nature that's accessible. He comments that kids are plugged into some sort of electronic medium 44 hours per week. He invites us to put nature on the calendar to give the gift of radical amazement. And he predicts the future will belong to the nature smart, those individuals, families, businesses, and political leaders who develop a deeper understanding of the transformative power of the natural world. The more high-tech we become, the more nature we need. Time spent in nature is the most cost-effective and powerful way to counteract the burnout and sort of depression that we feel when we sit in front of a computer all day. Recently, we have seen an increase in nature and forest schools, an embracing of what is known as wild pedagogy, a recognition that time spent outdoors is more than just a nice way to spend some time, but an essential way to improve health. An outdoor school leader named Nicolette Sauder wrote, "May we raise children who love the unloved things, the dandelion, the worms, and spiderlings, children who sense the rose needs the thorn and run into rain-swept days, the same way they turn towards the sun. And when they're grown and someone has to speak for those who have no voice, may they draw upon that wilder bond, those days of tending tender things, and be the ones. Supporting and expanding the views of Richard Louv is Florence Williams, author of The Nature Fix: Why Nature Makes Us Happier, Healthier, and More Creative. She suggests a nature pyramid and issues the Shift RX challenge. The challenge suggests recommended doses of nature, though she suggests 30 minutes a day, some say 20 minutes a day, is a real sweet spot for maximizing health benefits of being outside. That can include walking, gardening, berry picking, fishing, visiting a park, bird watching, as long as you are unplugged from technology and outdoors. After 20 minutes a day, Florence also recommends 2 hours per week, as far removed from human intrusion as possible. Florence Williams is the nature and forest therapy guide, trained by the same organization that trained me, but she's better known as a journalist who writes mostly in the fields of science and health. In her informative and entertaining account, The Nature Fix, Williams investigates cutting-edge research as she travels to fragrant cypress forests in South Korea to meet the rangers who administer forest healing programs. She goes to the Green Hills of Scotland and its ecotherapeutic approach to caring for the mentally ill. She goes on a river trip in Idaho with Iraqi vets suffering from PTSD, and to the West Virginia mountains, where she discovers how being outside helps children with ADHD. The Nature Fix demonstrates that our connection to nature is much more important to our cognition than we think, and that even small amounts of exposure to the living world can improve and enhance our mood. As Richard Louv suggests, we need the cooperation of designers, urban planners, architects, as well as health professionals to increase opportunities for everyone to harness the healing power of nature. This is biophilic design, which not surprisingly was one of the top design trends of 2022. Especially as work shifts from offices to home, we are all seeking ways to create harmony and bridges between our living spaces and the natural world. Visionary designers and holistically oriented consumers are seeking ways to increase our collective health by using windows, skylights, natural building products such as wood, leather, and stone in organic colors. Imagine if all our public buildings and institutions were designed this way. This is a picture of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which was considered one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world and is a great example of biophilic design. Biophilic design often includes water as well as green spaces. Being in or around water can decrease anxiety, ease mental fatigue, rejuvenate us. Water is dynamic, it has different colors, it's moving. And so our attention is on that rather than all the noise out there. Being in or on water is hugely therapeutic. Floating allows our body to rest and it holds our attention. Recent research suggests benefits of being near water, or what experts call blue spaces, are often similar to those of being in green spaces. Spending time by water was the most highly rated activity in nature for improving people's mental health in a 2021 survey by the World Economic Forum. Rivers, canals, hot tubs, fountains, puddles, lakes, oceans, waterfalls, swamps, wetlands, even a bath can calm us down, especially outdoors. Being near water is what is known as soft fascination. According to the World Happiness Foundation, soft fascination can be defined as attention held by a less active or stimulating activity that provides the opportunity to reflect and introspect. Soft fascination involves reflection and allows sense making, contrary to hard fascination, which is focused on tasks, entertainment, and reducing boredom. The idea behind soft fascination is that our minds require moments of downtime when our attention is softly focused. For instance, during meditation or spending time outdoors, rather than intensely focused while draining mental energy, such as working hard to meet a deadline or vigorously exercising. When we practice soft fascination in nature, we allow ourselves to pause, and by spending time in such a restorative environment, we unconsciously invite new ideas, opportunities, solutions, healing, and alignment with something much bigger than us. This is a picture of the Kumamoto Railway Station building in Japan. To me, it has a lot of similarities to the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Wouldn't you love to meet a train in a building that looks like that? Several years ago, I was a secondary school guidance counselor and drama teacher working in 2 windowless rooms, one of which was painted black. By noon, everything ached. My head, eyes, body, I was listless, grumpy. Fortunately, my school was located beside an extensive forest. I began walking in the woods behind my school for 20 minutes at noon, and life got better in a hurry. My energy returned. I didn't feel the need to eat a Mars bar or 6 cookies to maintain my alertness, and I was calm. Walking in the woods allowed me to process problems, to find clarity and solutions, which seemed to magically appear, certainly to enjoy soft fascination, though I had never heard that term. I started researching forest bathing and discovered that a course offered by the US Association of Nature and Forest Therapy Guides was being offered in Canada. I knew I had found my calling. But the course was too expensive, so I just kept walking in the woods at lunchtime. Shortly after, the health of my 90-year-old father started to rapidly decline to the point he was declared palliative. Because he was blind and my mother was already dead, my husband, brother, and I became the support network to allow him to finish his life the way he wanted in his own home. Though an incredible end-of-life experience for my dad, I was left depleted, grieving, desperate for healing. An unexpected gift of his death, though, was that I was also left a little bit of money, just enough to cover the cost of the ANFT course, so I enrolled. Initially, I thought I was signing up for something like a yoga course where I would have time to walk in the woods, eat nourishing food that someone else had cooked, process my grief. It quickly became clear, however, that the expectation of the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy Guides was to train and then send guides out into the world. So I have been guiding since 2018, and ANFT has now trained almost 1,000 guides in 37 different countries. Shinrin Yoku translates literally to forest bathing. Forest bathing, also known as forest therapy, was a response to a public health crisis in Japan in the early 1980s. High levels of stress at work and a worrying spike in rates of autoimmune disease and suicide, shifts to a highly technological and screen-oriented workplace. It was also an economic project to revitalize the economy of rural areas that were suffering from the mass migration of people from rural areas to the cities. The health of the forest and the health of humanity are inseparably linked. The idea with this term coined by the Japanese government in 1982, but which was inspired by ancient Shinto and Buddhist practices, is to let nature enter your body through all senses. The Japanese have good reason to require unwinding. In addition to those long work days, pressure, competition for schools, and jobs have helped Japan achieve the third highest suicide rate in the developed world, after South Korea and Hungary. 10% of the country's 128 million residents live in Greater Tokyo. Rush hour there is so crowded that white-gloved workers shove people onto metro trains. On top of that, the small island nation trembles and yaws with more than 1,500 earthquakes a year. The tsunami that hit in 2011 killed 20,000 people. The Fukushima nuclear plant suffered a triple meltdown. And now some of the country's prized rice has radioactive cesium in it. So it makes sense that Japan's scientists are in the vanguard of knowing how green spaces soothe the body and the brain. Scientists in Japan are measuring what's actually happening to our cells and neurons. Led by Zaki from the University of Chiba and Dr. Ching Li from the Nippon Medical School in Tokyo, they're using field tests, hormone analysis, new brain imaging technology to uncover how the magic words works on a molecular level. Once we know that, it's news we can use. In Japan, forest therapy is recognized as an important part of wellness. It's practiced by millions of people every year. South Korea is second, Finland is third. There are 65 forest therapy centers in Japan in locations ranging from Hokkaido to Okinawa. Each center has a forest therapy base and trails, as well as certified forest therapy guides. Dr. Ching Li is also an immunologist in the Department of Hygiene and Public Health at Nippon Medical School and chairperson of the Society of Forest Medicine, a small but growing international group of academics. Li is interested in nature's effect on the human immune system. Leisurely forest walks compared with urban walks show a 12% decrease in the stress hormone cortisol, a 7% decrease in sympathetic nerve activity, a 1.5% decrease in blood pressure, and an almost 6% decrease in heart rate. Time in nature also improves our mental performance and creativity. One study of a group of outward bound participants found they performed 50% better on creative problem-solving tasks after 3 days of wilderness backpacking. Forest bathing in Korea is known as salamyeok. It's taken extremely seriously by the government and by the South Korean population. In 2014, the government invested $140 million in establishing a national forest healing center. And in 2015, the law on forest welfare promotion was enacted. Currently, a $100 million forest healing complex is being built adjacent to the country's iconic Sobeksan National Park. It is complete with an aquatic center, addiction treatment center, a barefoot garden, herb garden, open air decks, suspension bridge, and 50 kilometers of protected forest bathing trails. The Korean Forest Service aims to develop a green welfare state and plans to open 34 more official healing forests over the next 2 years to add to the 3 currently in existence, meaning that most major towns will have access to one. There is also a plan to train a further 500 forest healing instructors. It's a profession with high status in Korea and requires a graduate level qualification. 82% of Koreans already visit forests more than once a year, and the frequency of their visits is rapidly increasing as the evidence grows for the health benefits of engaging in nature. The Forest Service there now regularly takes blood pressure and heart rate variability measures, and it's assembling a large database that will be used to work out individuals' necessary dose. For example, is one walk a week in the woods enough to maintain low blood pressure? And how frequently do we need to top up? South Korea is embracing forest kindergartens, forest prenatal classes, and forest classes for bullies. Forests are being used as places to overcome addictions and to treat a variety of mental health issues, including symptoms of PTSD among firefighters and anxiety related to so many aspects of modern urban living. City parks are also being used to support mental well-being. One of Seoul's biggest parks, a digital detox program runs for preteens. Worthy of honorable mention is Singapore. Singapore spends $150 million per year to develop scenery. It's 0.6% of its national budget. As the third densest country in the world, its government, similarly to Japan, South Korea, and Finland, has recognized the potential negative impact on mental health of living in crowded urban environments, and it has taken radical steps to reduce some of the harmful effects of city living. With an understanding that city dwellers are more stressed and depressed, Singapore has embraced greenery in every aspect of its planning, with integrated parks and gardens in its shopping centers, hospitals, office blocks. Architects and developers are encouraged to include green walls, roof parks, vertical gardens into corporate and residential towers with government grants to help fund the projects. As a result, Singapore is now considered one of the top biophilic cities in the world, with its percentage of green space actually increasing even as its population grows. The government there considers access to green space a priority for its citizens, and its large botanical gardens are open 16 hours a day and free to visitors. Singapore has set itself the ambitious goal of having 80% of its people living within 400 meters of green space, and it's already at 70%. A new hospital close to the city center is an excellent example of a simple biophilic design. It is invested in the known health benefits of nature. Many of its rooms face inner luxuriant garden courtyards, dense with trees and shrubs, specifically chosen to attract birds and butterflies. Plants are draped over balconies. There's a huge pond, a medicinal garden, a walking path, and an organic vegetable garden on the roof. Finland's reputation as one of the happiest nations in the world is often assumed to be due to its low income disparity, but it may also, at least in part, be due to nature. Finland is the most forested country in Europe. Most Finns regularly access its lakes, forests, and coasts to conduct the national obsessions of fishing, mushrooming, berry picking, lake swimming, and Nordic skiing. Over 95% of Finns regularly spend time engaged in outdoor activities. However, as Finns, like everyone else, are moving into urban environments, they too are reporting increased levels of stress and depression, and health experts are now trying to work out precisely how much time is needed outdoors to stay healthy and to stay sane. The Finnish government invested $16 million in a series of studies called the Green Health and Research Project to investigate the benefits of natural environments available to city dwellers. Their results showed that just 15 to 45 minutes in a city park, even with pavement, crowds, street noise, was enough to improve mood, vitality, and feelings of restoration. The research further concluded that 5 hours a month is the lowest amount of time to gain health benefits from nature. Following this project, 5 hours a month is establishing itself as a recommended minimum dose in Finland to stave off depression. And the Finnish government is already recognizing the huge savings for the national healthcare system. So where is Canada on the global nature exposure and human health? Glimmers of hope. With the Greenbelt River Valley Connector Program, the City of Markham, Ontario enhanced 4 trails in 2018 across the municipality with the goal to create places that people can connect to nature, to their local urban river valley systems, and to engage in passive recreational activities such as forest bathing. These are the first municipally supported forest bathing trails in Canada, but hopefully many more will follow. Marlise Aguchi, the Parks Renaissance planner with the city, states the health of the watershed is directly related to the health of the community. We need to experience joy in nature so that we willingly and enthusiastically direct ourselves towards sustainable living. In a forest bathing walk led by a certified guide, biological and psychological human health factors are supported by safe, relaxed contact with nature. It's more about being here than getting there. Forest bathing walks are short, usually less than a kilometer, and last 2 to 3 hours. It's important to clarify, though, that it's not just exposure to nature that makes us feel better, but connection with nature. That explains why someone mountain biking through a forest with earbuds is in nature and will doubtless feel better for vigorous outdoor exercise. However, they will not receive anywhere near the healing and restorative benefits of someone moving slowly and intentionally in a forest, who is hearing leaves crunch, noticing birds or creatures, sniffing the air, the earth, or a flower, engaging all their senses and letting them wander, allowing for soft fascination and random engagement through all their senses. And key to it all is disconnection from technology, even watches, if possible. Now in my 6th year as a guide, I've had the opportunity to work with hundreds of high school students, also all the way up to my oldest client, who is 91 at the time and who's been on 3 forest bathing walks with me in 3 different seasons. As someone who also offers Airbnb experiences to visitors, I've guided many people from other countries in my home forest of Sunnydale Park, Barrie. I've collaborated with many different organizations, as Serena mentioned. Some are looking for wellness, such as the North Simcoe Muskoka Hospice Palliative Care Network, the Simcoe County District School Board for both students and staff, and several Canadian mental health associations. Others are approaching forest bathing through the lens of environmental awareness and preservation, such as the Catchacoma Ancient Forest Landscape, and certainly the Oak Ridges Moraine Land Trust. I have also partnered with those looking to deepen the business and economic opportunities by forwarding. That includes students of ecotourism at Fleming College, students of recreation and leisure studies at Brock University, and Scandinavia Spa at Blue Mountains. As a trained nature and forest therapy guide, I offer open-ended invitations to slow down, and to connect through all senses with the natural environment that is around you. This practice supports every aspect of our well-being. There are many wonderful health benefits attributed to forest therapy, as have been mentioned, including boosted immune function, improved cardiovascular and respiratory health, attention restoration, and a reduction in stress and depression. Spending time in nature also improves cognition, even boosts empathy. But these effects are really the collateral impacts of a repaired relationship between people and places. Especially for those dealing with ecological grief, the restoration of relationship to place is the beginning of healing. Canada only has one public municipal forest bathing trail so far, but we do have some other wonderful partnerships recognizing and harnessing the healing power of nature. Also in Canada, in 2022-23, the David Suzuki Foundation is partnering with the National Healing Forest Initiative. Because forests have a healing, spiritual, calming, and nurturing effect on people, the National Healing Forest Initiative is an invitation to Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities, institutions, and individuals to create green spaces across Canada to honor residential school victims, survivors, their families, as well as murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls and children who have been or were removed from their families, including during the 60s scoop, and ended up caught in the welfare system. The goal is for communities and individuals to work together to create a healing forest or green space, whether within urban parks or in a rural setting. It might include outdoor gathering spaces, walking trails, plots dedicated to growing sacred plants and trees. Visiting elders might present stories, and survivors and their family could share their experiences. Each community or individual decides for themselves what their healing forest would look like and how it would function. The only proviso is that the forest is created and used in the spirit of reconciliation, healing, shared understanding, and respect. In 2022, 16 new healing forest projects have been selected to be supported across Canada. Recovering from the physical and mental health effects of COVID-19 will take more than regular medicine alone. The World Health Organization describes nature as our greatest source of health and well-being, and says enhancing biodiversity is critical to recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. This is why doctors around the world are giving patients green prescriptions to spend more time in nature. The New Zealand government was the first to use the term green prescription, introducing the concept in the 1990s as a response to increasing obesity rates. It consists of a health professional's written advice to a patient to become more physically active outdoors and has been highly successful in New Zealand, with the term now spreading to other countries to describe a non-medical referral option for GPs and other health professionals. The concept of a nature prescription is gaining momentum with many doctors in the United States, the UK, Canada, now sending their patients to parks for a variety of physical and health issues, including diabetes, obesity, depression, anxiety, and asthma. This is what a sample green prescription looks like. The drug prescribed, exercise. The dose, 45 minutes of walking. The directions, 4 mornings at 7 o'clock, and the refill is unlimited. This is what a nature prescription looks like. Some health practitioners look forward to a time, hopefully in the not too distant future, when nature exposure will become a critical piece of data collected at the start of every medical counter. It will join what's your blood pressure, temperature, and pulse And what's your nature exposure as the newest vital sign? Parks Prescriptions is an initiative of the BC Parks Foundation by healthcare professionals who want to improve their patients' health by connecting them to nature. Spearheaded in British Columbia by family physician Dr. Melissa Lem, Parks Prescriptions are now launched in all Canadian provinces and will soon launch in the north. Dr. Melissa Lem, another fun fact, she's also an ANFT trained nature and forest therapy guide. She has worked relentlessly to launch this program, Canada's National Nature Prescription Initiative. She is the recent winner of the 2022 Adult Nature Inspiration Award. She said any regulated health professional in Canada can sign up for the program and they'll receive a customized nature prescription file and resources on how to prescribe nature effectively. This practical resources like quick tips, patient handouts, its goal is to make prescribing time in nature simple, fun, and effective. Mood Walks is another Ontario province-wide initiative that promotes physical activity in nature or green exercise as a way to improve both physical and mental health. Led by the Canadian Mental Health Association, Ontario, in partnership with Hike Ontario and Conservation Ontario, Mood Walks provides training and support for community mental health agencies, social service organizations, and other community partners to launch educational hiking programs, connect with local resources, find volunteers, and explore nearby trails. Dr. Melissa Lam and the team at Parks Prescription were grateful and proud to have Minister of Health Jean-Yves Duclos celebrate Parks Prescription with a special message at COP15 in Montreal in December 2022. And I'm hoping I can play it for you now. Unfortunately, it looks like we are not going to be able to hear from Jean-Yves Duclos. He congratulates Dr. Melissa Lem and her team for the launch of Parks Prescriptions. And he concludes by saying, sustainable health is a healthy mind in a healthy body, in a healthy living environment, on a healthy planet. I was hoping to be able to play a short video here inviting you to all come home to the forest, but oh, just a second. Oh, I'll see if I can get it. Oh, no, unfortunately, I'm unable to start this video, but it was a beautiful picture for me to try and take you outside into the trees, but you'll have to be able to do that on your own. Good news for people in the planet, also coming on December 19th, just last month, in the final hours of COP15 in Montreal, as negotiators from the 196 parties to the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, they rallied to finalize an ambitious global biodiversity framework inclusive of the global agreement reached to protect and conserve at least 30% of world's land and ocean by 2030 target, and Indigenous peoples' rights and recognition while addressing the cavernous funding gap for biodiversity protection and conservation. This too was an extraordinary coup for Mother Nature and for the planet. So here we are. We've recognized that we must adopt a more accessible, sustainable, equitable, biosupportive way of improving human and planetary health. Nature exposure, nature connection, human health, and planetary health are interconnected and inseparable. Being outside is good. Being exposed to nature is better. Finding connections to nature and repairing our relationship with the land is the best. Now you've all been reminded of what you already knew. Tech-free time in nature makes us feel better. As promised, I have a gift to you to add to your intentions as we head off into this fresh new year. What is one thing in nature that you can do for 1 second every day that will lead to an improvement in mental well-being that can last up to 8 hours? This is my nature hack gift to you. I don't know if there's any guesses in the chat room. I can't see it right now, but if anybody has any guesses, something that will take 1 second and make you feel better for 8 hours. Ta-da! It is hearing a bird chirp or sing. It's based amazingly on a study done in October 2022 called Feeling Chirpy at King's College London. And it says being around birds is linked to lasting mental health benefits. So that's something I hope you can do tomorrow. So unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. I'd like to thank Dr. Lorax and Dr. Zeus, and here are some pictures of some of my other heroes who are fighting valiantly and have for much of their lives to save the planet that will save us. They include Dr. Jane Goodall, who is a huge advocate for tree preservation and forest bathing, and especially the jungle, Dr. David Suzuki, Dr. Diane Beresford Kruger, Greta Thunberg, those incredibly brave protesters all over the planet who have held the line literally at Fairy Lake and many other logging sites, and Dr. Melissa Lem. Thank you to all of you for being curious enough about the connection between nature and about the connection between nature connection and human and planetary health to tune in. Thanks to the Oak Ridges Moraine Land Trust and their hardworking staff who truly are holding the very thin green line at a time when it is vital to our existence. Before going to bed this evening, I do invite you to go outside, take 3 more deep breaths through your nose, sniffing, look up, you may see a bit of a sliver of a moon, but send an intention out into the universe for how you can access more of the healing power of nature in 2023. Perhaps some of our intentions will collide. Right now, I would invite you all to let's all take one collective big breath together. And I'd like to just finish with a very short poem called Walk Slowly by Dana Folds. It only takes a reminder to breathe, a moment to be still, and just like that, something in me settles, softens, makes space for imperfection. The harsh voice of judgment drops to a whisper, and I remember again that life isn't a relay race, that we will all cross the finish line, that waking up to life is what we were born for. As many times as I forget, catching myself charging forward without even knowing where I'm going, that many times I can make the choice to stop, to breathe, and be, and walk slowly into the mystery. Thank you so much for your attention tonight. I think we have some time for some questions, which I'd be delighted to answer. I think they will be coming from Serena.
Yep, I will read the questions to you. If anyone in the audience has any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A and we'll get to them as soon as we can. There's one in the chat for you, Beth.
Okay.
I'm just scrolling up to find it. Okay, so Amy asks, Beth, how do you feel about apps like iNaturalist? I'm an environmental educator who is both a nature geek, but also someone who needs to learn the details of what I'm seeing. I find myself quite pulled toward my phone when I see something interesting. Should I accidentally leave it at home next time?
I do the same thing. I have Merlin, the bird app, and I have Seek, which is like iNaturalist. Um, I think it's just important that you're aware of it, that you know that it's there. And the fact that you asked that question, I think it's curiosity versus downtime, and just recognizing what you need. If your curiosity is overcoming your need to just disconnect, then go for the curiosity and let iNaturalist help you. I think those things are wonderful ways to connect. So I know it sounds mutually exclusive, but I'd say just monitor yourself and just ask yourself, what do I need now? Do I need to know? If I do, then use it. That would be, and I do that too.
That's a really good answer. I think it's a great practice in self-restraint for most of us.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So in the Q&A, this is more of a comment than a question, but Jessica Donnelly says, thank you, Beth. I loved hearing your story and enjoyed your presentation. I'm also a nature and forest therapy guide certified through GIFT last year. It's been part of my healing journey, and I love sharing this practice with others. It's been life-changing for me.
Thank you for that. And I meant to mention, I am so glad you reminded me, GIFT is the Canadian trainer of nature and forest therapy guides based out of London, Ontario. It's short for the Global Institute of Forest Therapy. And it was GIFT that designed the trails in Markham. The one set of four forest bathing trails we have municipally owned, GIFT designed them. So that's a wonderful resource if any of you happen to be thinking about doing training. A great one too.
Great, that's great to know. I'll just pop that in the chat in a bit so everybody else knows. Another question, I hope I pronounce your name right. It's from Shanice. Is there a link, the come home video you have that you can share so we can watch it on our own?
Gee, it's so beautiful. Serena, could I, how could I do that?
You could email it to me and I can just copy and paste it in the chat, or you can copy and paste it in the chat if you would like, if you have that link.
Okay, let me see. I'm going to try and do that right now.
Yep, no worries.
It's really beautiful, and it's about 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Perfect.
But I'm happy to take another question while I try and do that if you want.
Okay, awesome. So Margot says, does FB explore others in the blessed unrest of wild pedagogies? I hope I pronounced that right. Purposeful travel, etc. Important, I think, that folks are aware of common secondary goals.
Sorry, I just missed the beginning of that, Serena.
Yep, I'll just repeat that. Does FB explore others in the blessed unrest of wild pedagogies, purposeful travel, etc.? I'm assuming she means forest bathing.
Oh, okay. Does it embrace wild pedagogy? And is she asking if it does?
Yeah, if it does, and if it explores purposeful travel, etc., like other things like that.
It was not part of my training, but it's a logical connection between the two things. I think that's about all I can say for that.
Okay, perfect. That works. Another question from Helena. Do you have any tips for forest bathing cues for children?
Oh, that's a great question. Children are such natural forest bathers that they tend to wander and go slowly and look under stones and stuff like that. I think probably the biggest thing you can do is let them be outside, let them be dirty, let them play, let them just have fun outdoors, and try and somehow monitor their screen time so that they don't have it. But if for kids, it often, they don't need toys when they're outside. If there's trees and if there's dirt and puddles and sticks, and often, kids can spend an hour just throwing sticks into a lake, and that is fabulous forest bathing for children. So mostly I would say take your kids to the woods and let them know that this is something they can do. And the other cautionary part of that is try, if those of us who are parents, it's hard, but try and not be on your phone when you're with your kids in the woods, even not taking photos for a little bit, even though they're irresistibly cute. Maybe just set some kind of boundary that we're just going to take photos for the last 10 minutes so that everybody gets non-screen time. Another thing that is going with your kids will take you to some great spots, and they'll dig and lift and climb and show you some great things. So will your dog. There's a whole book on forest bathing with your dog that basically invites you to let your dog guide you for a day rather than you guiding it. And they'll show you great spots to sniff, and you pause when your dog pauses. If you know your dog, if that's a possible thing to do, it's another very fun thing.
Great, that's an amazing answer. Kind of a follow-up to your answer there, Amy says in the chat, if children get antsy for something to do while in the woods, have them search for special things like moss, fungi, lichen, or small things. I do it and kids love finding things.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Okay, so Carla in the Q&A asks, do you ever encounter opponents to nature bathing? If someone was skeptical, how would you change their mind?
If someone was skeptical, I'd invite them to come on a walk with me. During our training, one of the things we were told was that probably 85% of your people of your guests, your clients will embrace what you're doing, but be prepared for 15% who just don't quite buy in. I have guided hundreds and hundreds of people for now 6 years, all ages and stages, and I have not yet met anyone who didn't respond favorably. Maybe they didn't to my, when they went home, they didn't, but to my face, people have unanimously been grateful for the opportunity to connect with nature. So, but when you tell people you're a forest bathing guide, most people kind of say, what? And they laugh. So it's because forest bathing kind of makes you smile, just the name. I'm used to people not taking it too seriously. That's why I love that there is this really directive research that in Finland, they're trying to figure out what's the dose you need to battle depression. In New Zealand, they're trying to figure out what's the dose you need to battle obesity. In Japan, it's they're so far ahead of us, but it's the scientists doing this now. So it has that robust research to back it up now, and people can find that fairly readily on the internet. So that has given a little bit more cred to forest bathing, certainly, than I had in 2018 and 2019 when no one had ever heard of it. COVID-19 actually was hugely helpful and a boost to forest bathing because everybody realized that they felt better when they went outside. And now they're curious about why.
Okay, fantastic. That was a great answer. So we're done with some questions. We do have a few comments in the chat. I'll just read to you.
Thank you.
So regarding a previous question that you answered, Jenna says, forest bathing definitely embraces wild pedagogy. When we walk slowly, there's so much to see, learn, observe, and think about in such a relaxing environment. It clears our mind for future work and re-energizes us too. Some of my best thoughts come to me when I'm walking slowly through the forest.
Beautifully said. I saw there was one comment about wheelchair access. Another thing that the Oak Ridges Moraine Land Trust did a couple of years ago, I was hired to do a walk with seniors, but it was on an accessible trail, which is near Stouffville. Serena, do you remember the name of it right off? Oh, jeepers.
It's one of the York Regional Forests. We're a partner with them. It's
Yes.
a college tract, but there's also accessible trails now at North Tract and at Hall Tract, and they've actually just expanded the accessible one at Hollage as well. So there's a more accessible trail. Yeah.
Thank you, Eileen. Yes, it was the haulage track. And someone also mentioned accessibility. Again, during COVID, I actually guided many remotely guided. So on Zoom, people from Guatemala and New Zealand and California and England and from all over the place. It was possible because of the connection piece to facilitate that on Zoom, which seems completely contrary to everything I'm saying, but it was the connection piece that made people understand, that allowed people to make a connection with a plant or a rock or a feather in their own home, but it also joined like-minded people. And during COVID, that was a huge healing factor.
Great, thank you so much. I think that's it for all of our comments in the chat. I do have a question.
Yes.
Considering it's winter time and many of us are feeling the winter blues, it might be a little bit harder for us to go outside in the cold and enjoy some nature. Do you have any quick tips to maybe, energize us, make us more motivated to go outside?
Maybe again, just start with, hopefully you have warm enough clothes. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
But you could set a goal even of 5 minutes a day. And even from now till the end of January, adding 1 minute a day. So that might get you to 15 minutes by the end of January, to just, even if it's walk halfway down the block of the street you live on, or if you're in an apartment, even standing, if you have a balcony, to go out there. If you just can't do that, gazing out a window can help too. It's actually good for your eyesight as well. But yeah, dressing for it makes a huge difference. I do lots of forest bathing guides in the walks in the winter, but the key is dressing up as warmer than you think you need to be, and that will allow you to go slowly. If you're cold, it's really hard to go slowly. So bundle up, even wear your clothes, your warm clothes inside for 2 or 3 minutes, so you're practically hot by the time you go out, and then you can be slow outside for just a few minutes.
Awesome, thank you so much for that answer. One more comment from Margot. I had a McMaster prof in health science shut down one of my students who was doing an undergrad research project on human and nature connectivity. I thought he felt threatened. We've come a long way.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Isn't that, oh, I hope that was a long time ago, Margot. Oh my goodness. And that's the thing about people just struggling to believe that being outside actually makes us healthy. But Indigenous people have been doing this for years. Oh, well, okay, so Margot's saying that was in 2005, almost 20 years ago. Hopefully the prof wouldn't shut that down now. Oh.
Okay, so that looks like it for comments and questions. So we can go ahead and probably start wrapping up this webinar. Aileen, if you have anything to add, that would be great.
No, thanks, Beth. That was fantastic, and I always learn something new from you. I love getting out in nature, and if you're looking for motivation to get out in the winter, birding is always a good way to get out. Competitive birding, as I like to call it. The ultimate nerd factor. No, but it is fun. It gives you kind of a bit of purpose to get out there and find these beautiful birds that are out there. And animal tracking, and we have some coming up, is that in the snow, it tells you a story about the animals and the wildlife and what they're doing out there in nature. So if you're like me and you need a little bit of motivation to get out there and discover, the tracks are pretty cool. You can learn a lot about nature that way as well. But thank you, Beth. Fantastic as always.
Oh, thank you. It was such a pleasure. And good luck to everyone to just find ways to motivate yourself to get outside. That will be wonderful.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. We have recorded it. I'm going to stop it right now. And then we'll send that out to everybody, and hopefully we can maybe get the link to send out for those videos as well.
Okay, yes. Okay, I will send that to you within the next 5 minutes, if that's okay.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Serena.